game.
That's absolutely what happened. So Wyatt can play a bit of a longer game. He's not going to kill you quickly. I mean, I suppose there are draws that Hero of Precinct 1 can get the job done with, but for the most part, I don't expect that to be the case.
No, it's going to be a mixture of trying to keep Cowden off balance, preventing his key cards from entering the battlefield, while applying enough pressure to force Cowden to play a little bit of ahead of schedule. From Cowden's side, it's just, can you get out of the first 2 or 3 turns without anything too bad, without Hero or Thief of Sanity involved? Then when you're just trading card for card, Cowden should be getting the better end of that.
Well, so take a look at our seeding here very quickly. Darby is the 4, Cowden is the 5. So Darby will be on the play. Our players will be given the green light. And, of course, when we have the opportunity to let you know about our other matchups and how they're doing, we will let you know. It looks like Nick is going to take a mulligan here down to 6 cards again. Anthony Divardi, number 1 overall seed, playing Sultai mid-range against Abe Corrigan, also playing Sultai mid-range. He's your 8. That's one matchup we'll be looking for results from. Jonathan Hobbs and Andrew Davis. That's that Bantam mid-range kind of flash style deck there for Hobbs against Andrew Davis playing Esper Control. That's your 2 versus 7. And then, of course, Max McGunnison playing white-blue aggro, a little bit of Azorius aggro deck, against Brad Carpenter, who is playing Izzet Drakes with 4 copies of Terramander. I think people expect that card to be very good in Modern and Legacy, and it still very well may be, but looks to be a Standard player as well.
Yep, major upgrade to chart the course for these blue-red decks.
Well, Nick is going to keep that top card, and we are underway here. It's a Godless Shrine for Wyatt. A Glacial Fortress there for Nick, and now for Wyatt, he will play a Hero of Precinct 1 falling down to 18.
First test spell of the game here for Darby. One of his 2 very good early threats here to try to generate a massive advantage against a deck like Esper Control, Thief of Sanity being the other.
Discovery will allow Darby to surveil 2. There's a Glacial Fortress that'll go to the graveyard. Looks like another copy of Discovery will go to the hand. And does Darby have another land to play? It looks like the answer is yes. Otherwise, it'd be weird if he put that Glacial Fortress into the graveyard with missing his land drop. Water your grave, enters the battlefield tapped as we head back over to Nick. Nick does not have a land to play, so he will simply pass the turn back. We'll head back over to Darby, who might be able to get this game over with pretty quickly as he picks up a copy of Deputy of Detentions.
And if Darby gets game 1, that's extremely good news for him, because you see a couple cards here like Hostage Taker, Deputy of Acquittals, without a whole lot to do with those cards game number 1. Getting to cut those cards for discard, counter spells, better threats, whatever. That's a major upgrade for Darby, probably better than the upgrades that Cowden's going to be making.
This will be another copy of Discovery. Negate will take care of that. Darby will still get the token from the Hero of Precinct 1. Godless Shrine on the battlefield tapped. And we'll head back over to Nick. Nick looking for a 3rd land. He'll draw a card. He did not find one. He found a copy of Vraska's Contempt. He's also got his copy of Chromium in hand. Missing land drops. Not ideal, obviously, for the Esper Control deck as we head back over to Wyatt. We'll get an attack going here for 4. Nick's going to fall down to 11. Godless Shrine will enter the battlefield untapped. What's Wyatt Darby's plan now? That's the question. He's got some plans on playing a spell to be the Seraph. And we'll see if that resolves.
One up here to play around a Syncopate.
Seraph is in there. And Nick did hit his land drop. It doesn't appear to have a lot to do with it.
And notably here, no double blue, so he's not threatening Absorb here.
That is notable, as here's a pretty healthy attack from Wyatt Darby in his Esper mid-range deck. I think Wyatt, one of the very few people playing the Seraph this weekend. So much talk about Reclamation and Mono Red and everything else that's going on in the format. And Darby's taking a different approach, but it's working very well for him this game as an Island is the draw. Island does not work well with Kaya's Wrath. Neither does neither does Nick at 2 with an Afterlife 2 creature on the battlefield. So Wyatt Darby is going to win game number 1 here over Nick Cowden. Nick lamenting his missed land drops, but these things do happen, though it is untimely here for Nick. We're going to start with him and his sideboard of 3 copies of Thought Eraser. 3 Thief of Sanity, 3 Moment of Craving, 2 Lyra Dawnbringer, an additional copy of Kaya's Wrath, a Cry of the Carnarium, a Disdainful Stroke, and a copy negate. Patrick, what do we like and why?
Well, I like the Cryo-Canarium here and the Kaya's Wrath, a little bit of a extra sweeper action. After that, I mean, Moment of Craving, I suppose, is okay if you're in the market for Cry. The Lyras, I think, are probably okay here, but no obvious includes past the additional creature removal.
On the other side of things here for Wyatt Darby, he does have 3 copies of Negate. There are 2 Duresses, 2 Vraska's Contempt, 2 Consecrate Consume, that is the split card, along with 2 Karn Sign of Urza. An Eldest Reborn, a Cast Down, a Moment of Craving, and a Disdainful Stroke. Now, you already said that Disdainful Stroke and that Eldest Reborn were good for Darby previously, so I imagine they'll be good again.
Well, and Darby here making some massive upgrades. The 3 copies of Negate, the 2 Duresses, the Disdainful Stroke, the Eldest Reborn, the 2 copies of Karn, Scion of Urza. This is just a great sideboard here. I could even see bringing in the Vraska's Contempt because he has so many creatures, like the Hostage Taker and the Deputy that really don't have anything to do. So I think he can be even more focused in on trying to answer Planeswalkers.
Yeah, I think the one thing that was really nice here for Wyatt Darby, pardon me, is just his ability to kind of shift like a Jund deck would do. Get those bad cards out. Get these really, really good sideboard cards in.
Yeah, and I think it was really, really key for Cowden to get game number 1 because you look at the sideboard here. On his side, a little bit of extra creature removal. The Lyras, maybe, it's kind of a take it or leave it sort of thing for me there. Whereas Wyatt is cutting, 8 or 9, 10 bad cards and bringing in some significant upgrades.
Well, our players are going to get ready here for game number 2. You see the quarterfinal matches that are taking place behind them. They're getting rocking and rolling here, so when we have updates, we'll, of course, bring them to you. But for now, we're going to talk one last time this weekend about the Magic the Gathering sale that is happening at StarCityGames.com. You can save big, not on 10s, not on 20s, but hundreds of items.
Literally hundreds of items over at go.starcitygames.com/sale. No particular categories. There's just some stuff on sale, so you should just cruise through the website and see where the discounts are. It's all sorted out if you click on the sales tab, so you can see everything there. You don't have to search by individual card. Every week, Monday, 11 a.m. East Coast time, new cards, new items will be on sale, so make sure to be checking back at the website at least once a week over at go.starcitygames.com/sale.
I'm getting ready here for game number 2 between Wyatt Darby and Nick Cowden. These 2 players having a fantastic first weekend. I know that Nick got kind of ran over that first game, but for Nick Cowden, I got to see a lot of him kind of in the off-camera feature matches. He was just making people look silly with his Esper Control deck. It was pretty easy for Nick for most of this weekend, truth be told.
Yeah, the fear that I would have about playing a deck like Esper Control here is that, how good is your mono red matchup? But with very little mono red making its way into the latter stages of day 2, Caleb Schur with a good finish. I believe he finished outside the top 8 on breakers, but no red decks in the top 8. If you were just feasting on mid-range creature strategies most of the afternoon, very good deck choice in Esper Control. Not surprising to see a fair bit of it here in the top 8, given the absence of mono red.
Perhaps this format a little bit more diverse than people initially thought. But I'm sure that we'll see a good mono red deck or a red-based aggressive deck with Light Up the Stage work its way into many, many a top 8. There's Rakdos decks and Gruul decks to be built, of course, so players have quite a bit of work to do. But now they've got a base to kind of build that work off of with these results from this open weekend. Darby's going to keep his hand, as will Nick, and it looks like Nick's got a couple of lands to work with here. Darby will play a Godless Shrine. Nick kicked things off with the Water Grave, not Isolated Chapel, and there is the extremely powerful Search for Azcanta.
Yep. Search on the play here. Very, very strong opening. Darby does have a couple of copies of Mortify in the deck. Unclear how much of that's going to be left over. But for Cowden, this is the start you want. Darby without a proactive play here on the second turn, and Search for Azcanta ready to go.
Discovery will allow Darby to surveil 2. Drowned Catacombs goes to the graveyard. New card added to the grip as we head back over to Nick. He'll do a little Search for Azcanta. Going to keep that top card. Now here is Thief of Sanity. So this is a great 1-2 punch. Powerful enchantment on the battlefield. Extremely powerful creature on the battlefield.
And if Darby's cut most of his way to remove stuff from the battlefield, this 1-2 opening is extremely strong.
And Darby's going to go over to Dovin, Grand Arbiter, and I believe he will attempt to make a Thopter, and he will. So Nick Miller will join the fray as Dovin slides down to 2 loyalty counters. Nick will surveil here with Search for Azcanta. And that Syncopate's going to head to the graveyard. Island is the draw step. This feels much more like an Esper control deck now, as here comes Thief into the Dovin. The Thopter token will jump in the way. Now Nick with an island and a hollowed fountain to choose from as far as a land is concerned. He'll play the island and pass the turn back. So back to Darby will go. Picked up a copy of Watery Grave for the turn. He will tick down Dovin to make another Thopter and gain another life. So up to 22 goes Wyatt. And now here's a Drowned Catacombs. And Wyatt will simply pass the turn back. Now, of course, this deck does have access to some things with that amount of mana. Counter spells and a few pieces of removal like Vraska's Contempt and Mortify as we head back over to Nick, who will put that Godless Shrine into the graveyard and draw a new card.
I believe those are Mortifies as well.
Indeed they are. The textless variety from many moons ago.
I think I might have got one of those in the mail.
You did.
Back in the day, yeah.
Here comes the Thief. Looks like he might be going after Wyatt this time. Doesn't matter where it's going. Nick Miller's going to jump in the way. This is a Vraska's Contempt to try to take care of the Thief.
Kind of a win-win for Darby. You're happy to get the Thief of Sanity off the battlefield here so you can untap your Thopter and your Dovin, hopefully. And if you use if a counterspell gets used here, that also seems fine.
This will be a Syncopate. Syncopate's going to take care of that Vraska's Contempt, but it's an exchange that Darby knew was possible and appears to be happy with.
Yeah. I think that's a good test spell there.
And there you'll see the Hollowed Fountain on the battlefield untapped so that Nick can cast one of his 2 Mortifies as necessary. As we head back over to Wyatt, who's got the Dovin on 1 counter. Let's see what kind of play Wyatt wants to make this turn.
He has drawn his copy of the Eldest Reborn. Would not be a bad time to land it.
Wouldn't be too bad at all.
But Cowden there playing the Hallowed Fountain untapped, really repping a Absorb very hard. Unclear if Darby's going to be willing to risk one of the premium cards in his hand that way.
Well, he's going to go with the big 3/4, enters the battlefield, gain 3 life, make you discard a card. Now the discard's easy here for Nick. That's going to be Search for his Kanta. Now Dovin's going to make another Thopter.
Great job there by Darby. I mean, I think playing a big play there would have ended up working out pretty poorly.
We'll head back over to Nick after he fires off that Mortify on the Thopter token. Vraska's Contempt will go to the graveyard there from Search for his Kanta. So 6 cards are in the graveyard. And Thief of Sanity is going to finally connect. So Darby's going to fall down to 23. And Nick has to take a look at a couple of cards. Nick had mentioned to us that a couple of times over the course of this weekend, his Thief of Sanities have been incredible. Have taken cards like Teferi and Nexus of Fate, Wilderness Reclamation. He's kind of done it all with that powerful 2/2.
Yeah, it's the card I think that has kind of jumped the most. It went from largely a non-player in Standard from the previous set to doing a lot of work throughout this tournament and in the top 8.
It looks like Negate and Discovery are going to go to the graveyard. And now, 3/4 of his own here for Nick. So he's going to start applying a little bit of pressure this way. Which means that Wyatt's going to have to discard a card. How about that? Happy to let you know, for those of you rooting for Jonathan Hobbs, the youngster, playing a Bant mid-range with more of a flash approach with Frilled Mystic and Angel of Grace, he's won game number 1 over Andrew Davis. Davis playing Esper Control. As here's an attempt at Thief of Sanity. And that will resolve here for Darby, as Nick will untap and draw. Watery Grave's going to go to the graveyard there from the Search for Escanta trigger, which means that will transform into Escanta, the Sunken Ruin. And now that powerful land on the battlefield, maybe at its best in the format in Esper Control.
Well, it's the deck just filled with counter spells and removal, and that's typically what you want to pair with Search for Escanta.
Mortify attempting to kill Wyatt Darby's Thief of Sanity, but he's got a negate at the ready. So that will stop that, and now we'll head back over to Nick.
And
over to Wyatt.
I really like that play there from Cowden. It's a little bit risky because the Thief of Sanity might die, but Do you want both players to have a Thief of Insanity or neither player? When you have Escanta flipped, you want it to be neither. You want to be drawing 2 cards a turn against your opponent's 1. That's a higher percentage of the cards being seen than 3 versus 2.
Well, here's an Eldest Reborn. That is going to resolve. So, Chapter 1 has been read there by Wyatt Darby, and now here's an activation of Escanta. See if Nick can catch back up. Well, Teferi is amongst those cards, so the answer is obviously yes. He can catch back up as the Hero of Dominaria has arrived. Nick will draw a card. He's found a Glacial Fortress to go along with that Teferi.
Also, players in the 5 p.m. Turbo events, Standard and Modern Turbo. Your first and final round pairings have been posted at the Gathering.
The Acro Native is in the tank, trying to figure out the best way to navigate this situation. And it's easy to say it starts with Teferi, but maybe you want to do something with the Escanta first. I'm not entirely sure. I mean, Teferi is so powerful, and the best thing for him to do this turn, it feels like. So he will start with the powerful Planeswalker. Maybe you tuck it away, but it looks like he's going to draw a card, found a land.
I think it's just too good here to plus try to find an answer and have an Escanta activation as the backup plan.
The Eldest Reborn forces Nick to discard a Plains. Chapter 3 will maybe be read here if that powerful enchantment sticks around. This is a Thought Eraser. You're going to see a land, Wyatt, which means the coast is clear for whatever you're looking to do as he'll Surveil 1. That card's going to stay on top. Down to 2 loyalty goes the Teferi. And the big follow-up is a Karn, Sign of Urza. So Darby's coming at the opponent here in Nick Cowden from multiple different angles. He's got the Eldest Reborn that's threatening Chapter 3. Karn, Sign of Urza, going to generate some card advantage. And then, of course, a 3-4 on the battlefield as well.
A lot to like here, but Cowden definitely keeping his head above water on the card count front here with Teferi plus Escanta.
Karn's going to reveal Duress and a Seraph of the Scales. Basilica Bellhaunt is the card that's getting a lot of work done here. Again, we saw this earlier when we watched Wyatt. The white, black, 3/4 spirit, when it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card, and you gain 3 life. Pretty good card against mono red.
Oh, yeah.
At the very least.
So you got the magic number of 4 toughness against all their bolts. They're trying to cobble together basically exactly 20 points from discarding, so from burn spells rather. So both making them discard and gaining 3 is good. And the floor is pretty high. I mean, it's not like this card's horrible in the control matchups either. As you can see, it's still in Darby's deck post board.
If you can cast it, which Darby can, you're probably pretty happy. As here's an Escanta activation, Teferi among those cards, and it looks like Nick will select that Teferi. Absorb also in hand here for the Esper control player. Godless Shrine looks like it's going to enter the battlefield tapped. We still do have a Teferi untapped trigger, I believe. And there it is. Potentially. Nick's still doing a little bit of thinking. Okay, he says I'll untap, search, and Isolated Chapel and pass the turn back with Absorb and I believe Cast Down at the ready. Up goes the Eldest Reborn. Wyatt going to take a look and figure out what he'd like to get back from the graveyard.
Thief of Sandy seems like a reasonable selection here. And it looks like that is where Darby's going to go.
So the Pro Tour Dominaria champion will select the Thief of Sanity from the graveyard. Doesn't have haste, unfortunately. But the Bellhaunt can attack, and it's going to try to take care of Teferi. Is Nick willing to let this go? I don't think so. He'll play a copy of Cast Down. Negates means we're going to have a bit of a fight here. Absorb means that this Bellhaunt may not win this war. Nick will gain a little bit of life. Bellhaunt will be killed, pardon me. From Cast Down, here's a Seraph. Pass the turn back. Seraph looking pretty good in this position. As it just feels like Darby doesn't run out of threats, Patrick.
No, he can keep his head above water for a while, drawing a lot of extra cards here. The Karn's going to be helpful on that front, too. And Cowden not finding a whole lot to do here. Multiple copies of Teferi, which is not the worst backup plan in case the first Teferi should go, but you would rather find things that actually answer what's happening on the battlefield.
You mean like Kaya's Wrath?
For example.
Kaya's Wrath is found off a search for his Kanta. And that will take care of the Seraph and the Thief. Now a couple of JD and Clomperrin Spirit tokens are left behind. Those are 1/1 white and black Spirit creature tokens with flying. And now we'll head back over to Wyatt Darby. He's got to get this Teferi taken care of at some point as Hero of Precinct 6. Hero of Precinct 1, pardon me. And Dovin, Grand Arbiter, are the reveals. Dovin will go under. Hero will go to the hand.
Pretty impressive, though, that Darby is able to keep his head above water here in spite of multiple Teferi and as Kanta activations. Says a lot about the extra cards that he's capable of drawing, too.
But can he keep it up? Because he has to.
It's hard. I mean, you can only survive so many more turns like this.
Nobody can fight the tide forever, is what I've been told, as there is the hero. We'll have an Escanta activation here in a moment, I'm sure. Nick will take a look at the top handful of cards. The Whiff.
I think it was 3 lands and perhaps the Chromium.
It was either the Chromium or the Thief. One of the two. As we head back over to Nick. Well, no, it was not the Chromium. No, it may be. That's a Kaya's Wrath. I take it back. Draw a card. That's another Kaya's Wrath. Okay. It's getting a little more difficult here for Wyatt.
Yeah, I think we're the vice is starting to tighten here a little bit.
Clean them up. You know, it's been a little while since we've seen a 4-mana Wrath effect. I think, Supreme Verdict, I think, was the last one. And that was during our last Return to Ravnica, because I think it was Day of Judgment and then Supreme Verdict. I think Verdict was the last time we saw a 4-mana Wrath.
That sounds right. I would have to give it some thought, but that sounds right.
Yeah. And, 4-mana Wraths are a lot different than 5-mana Wraths.
Do you count Languish?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't. It was mostly a Wrath, but not always. I forgot about that one. Negate's going to take care of Dovin. And that's a land, and now it looks like maybe Wyatt Darby's running out of gas.
I think it was an impressive fight here from Darby this game, but I think we are at point of no return here as Cowden picks up another counterspell.
And this is only going to make it more difficult. Precognitive Premonition, I believe, is its name, and drawing 3 cards is certainly its game, as Nick Cowden is loading up on the Absorbs now. Vraska's Contempt will take care of the Planeswalker. And how much longer does Wyatt want to try to slog through this is the question now.
Tap out.
Well, Nick's certainly not going to. He's got Search for his Kanta, among other things. Wyatt will play that land very quickly past the turn back, so Nick will activate.
Tap out.
Another Vraska's Contempt here for Nick. Nick will say, I got 2 Absorbs, and Wyatt says, that's good enough for me. Nick Cowden going to tie things up here against Wyatt Darby. Esper Control and Esper Midrange, getting ready for a third and final one.
Something that I've also enjoyed about the games we've been covering this weekend, even in the slower matchups, Darby's beaten down a little bit, but these are pretty slow decks, especially post-board. The games have not taken that long to play. It's been played at a pretty good clip. Even the Esper Control decks get the game done with or functionally done with a lot faster than some of their previous analogs. Remember covering you and I, traveling across the country week after week.
Oh, no.
Covering Sphinx's Revelation with 1 elixir of immortality as a way to, in quotes, win, end quote, the game. Those were some long matches. These have been much crisper.
They have. And it's been nice to watch.
Yeah.
It really, really has been. I will say this. We've been covering Magic, you and I, for about 6 years now. Some formats, obviously better than others. Some formats have been quite bad. This one, at least for right now, has been an absolute blast.
Yeah.
From start to finish, every match that I have watched this weekend has been absolutely fantastic. And I can't wait to see how this format continues to evolve.
Yeah, so we've had the experience twice of where has it gone wrong with release weekend. One is something's way out of whack. We have 4 copies of the same deck in the top 8. And the other is tournament is won by deck with literally no new cards.
Yeah, that part's
And
bad.
we are not at risk of either one of those things being the story of this weekend.
Thankful for that. That is to be sure. Now, if you're looking to play some more Magic on the SCG Tour, I've got a lot of dates and locations to be able to go over with you. We kick things off in Columbus with the Team Modern Open, a record-breaking SCG Tour Open event as far as attendance is concerned. So thank you to each and every single one of you that attended there. SCG Worcester, a little bit less attendance, but a standout victory by Dom Harvey with his take on Amulet Titan. Nick Cowden, Wyatt Darby, they could be one of the champions here this weekend in Indianapolis. And then next weekend we head to one of my favorite cities, Charm City in Baltimore.
And after that, we head to Dallas, which is a standard open. That'll bring us into March with Syracuse, which is Legacy. March 9th is the regional championships. Head over to go.cybercitygames.com/regionals for more information. We have posted all the venues for that, so you should be able to find the regional championship closest to you, and that format is Modern. After that, Modern Philadelphia. Then we head over to Cincinnati for a Team Constructed Open. One event in March, but it's a good one in the land. God's country, USA,
You better
Cleveland,
believe it.
Ohio.
What
Modern.
I've been told, plenty of good seats available to watch the Cavs.
Plenty of good seats at the Quicken Loans Arena to
Flash.
watch Colin Sexton, Tristan Thompson, maybe, Kevin Love,
Definitely
probably
not. Definitely not. Nope.
Rodney Hood, and the rest of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Then in May, a Standard Open in Richmond, Standard in Syracuse, a Modern Open in Louisville, Kentucky, and then the Season 1 Invitational at SCG Con Berglund Center in Roanoke, Virginia, June 7th through the 9th.
LeBron, please come home. If you do, I'll give you each playmat. If LeBron comes back, I'll give him each playmat.
Wow.
Botanical Growth on the house.
So generous.
Star Crown Angel on the house. Loftstone Citadel on the house. He doesn't even have to play Standard Modern Legacy. Just come home. I haven't watched a Cavs game in weeks.
I've watched. I really enjoyed recently rewatching the Tristan Thompson preseason. The East still runs through us press conference.
He's right. You got to come through here and get your free win. Okay. You got to come through Cleveland to get that free W.
Philly, you know they lost last year. Boston, they lost. Still runs through us.
That's right.
Toronto, you saw what happened.
That's right. The broom. We brought it out. We brought out the broom.
Just not even a little bit of self-awareness.
Look, if we won every game for the rest of the season, I'm not sure we'd make the playoffs.
On the East, you probably would.
We're 9-42.
40-42 would get you there.
Would it? I think you're
In
right.
yeah, come on.
You know, something to work towards. One game at a time. One game at a time. Glacial Fortress for Wyatt Darby. Watery Grave here for Nick Cowden. I do know the Cavs are playing right now against the Chicago Bulls, who are terrible. Cavs up 1 right now.
Listen,
82-81.
the plenty of good seats still available will also be true of Charlotte or Detroit or whatever team ends up playing Milwaukee in round 1.
That's right. Thought Eraser is going to take care of is not going to take care of that Syncopate. I suppose it did take care of Syncopate. Either way, that's the exchanges. Here's a search for Escanta, a game-winning card there for Nick in Game 2. It is a Hero of Precinct 1, but no third land here for Wyatt Darby. He could be in trouble as Nick is going to mill over a Glacial Fortress, play a Glacial Fortress, and his hand actually looks quite strong. So over to Wyatt we go. Does he find land 3? He does not. I do not think, no. In a little bit of trouble here as the Proto Dominaria champion. He's going to start by attacking for 2. Cowden going to fall down to 18. Let's see what comes next here for Wyatt Darby. A little bit of trouble. Does have another one of those discard spells.
Yeah, I think it's debating between that and holding up Negate.
4 p.m. sealed players, your next round of carrying.
There is Thought Eraser, going to make a 1-1.
I think you just got to, if it's close, and it does seem close, I think you got to err on the side of trying to surveil.
I'll trigger, search. If it's land 5, there's Vraska's Contempt. Darby's in some trouble. That's land 5. This could be Teferi number 1.
I mean, Cowden has Teferi plus Wrath rolled up already. It's a really commanding position here.
Ooh, I'm surprised he's going to go with the Wrath. I really am.
Well, what happens if you play Teferi and you plus,
Mm-hmm.
and then you untap and Darby can... What are you worried about there? Adding to the battlefield and negating your Wrath down the line? That seems really unlikely. And now you're sort of jammed up where you don't really want to play the Teferi because Darby's still got negate mana up.
The advantage here for Nick is that he's got Search for his Content going, so there's a different type of pressure that's occurring,
Right.
right?
He's not under any sort of rush.
And there's also this card, which at its worst is Jace's Ingenuity, which is draw 3 cards. Nick's able to do that on his end step. He'll trigger the Search. He'll put that card in his graveyard. He'll transform the Search into Azcanta, the Sunken Ruin. And as we know, this is a game-winning card for Esper Control. Both sides have helped Nick win Game 2, and it looks like they're both going to help him here in Game number 3, as here is now Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. You know how the East runs through Cleveland?
Yep.
Standard runs through Teferi.
Yeah. Tap
You
out.
better believe it.
Tap out.
That's right. We're going to head back over to Darby now, who's got some serious catching up to do.
Well, fortunately for him, Cowden's hand is just nothing but counterspells.
Esper Control is back, folks. Shaheen, it's a good time to be playing Magic, buddy. I hope you're watching. There is Dovin. I don't think he cares too much. Syncopate for 1 will take care of the Planeswalker. That one is exiled. A land here for Darby. Perhaps it is. In Drowned Catacombs, that will enter the battlefield tap. We head back over to Nick. He'll draw a card. It's a Cast Down. Let's draw another one with Teferi, shall we? This is another copy of Cast Down. The follow-up is an activation of Search for Azcanta. And that's an Absorb. Anybody's game.
Tap out. It's okay. Let it go. Still the PT chip. Teferi can't take that away from you, you know?
That's right.
You don't have to play this out. You don't have to play this out.
Well, it'd be one hell of a comeback if he's able to make it. It's going to be real tough, though, because Esper Control is starting to flex its muscles. That's not resolving.
Well, it might just eat some Terminates. I don't know. I would probably just counter it.
Yeah, I would kind of counter. I mean, you get the tokens and everything.
Yeah.
Tokens strike me as sort of annoying. Maybe I'm wrong.
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. But
Teferi going to go up to 7, draw another card. It's going to be a Wrath. All right. Well, if we're wrathing away tokens like this, then his hand is outrageous.
We once saw a photo of someone who I didn't know this person myself, who was a bouncer at a bar, and they had on their knuckles "Stay Down" tattooed. And sometimes I think about that when I'm watching Teferi run away with a game, because people keep on taking these these game actions, and Teferi is saying, "Stay down."
Here's an Absorb. Absorb, 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 absorb. You get the life. He gets the life. We all get the life. Back to Nick. Teferi's going up to 8 in a minute here, folks. Let's see what Nick draws this time. Just a couple of lands. Search for Azcanta activation. This one has a Syncopate and a Precognitive Premonition or whatever the heck it is.
Counterspell or Ancestral. Yep, there it is.
Tap out.
Tap out.
Tap out. Nick Cowden is going to win this match over Wyatt Darby 2-1. Esper Control, just too much for the Pro Tour Dominaria champion to overcome this go around. And Nick will be moving on to the semifinals. Teferi is back, baby. This standard format runs through the powerful